What's the dish? Is there like a calamari dish or something that you guys are famous
Yes,
for?
yes. Calamari is, essentially a fried octopus rings. They're delicious. In Rhode Island, you have them with hot peppers, and sometimes you have them with vinegar and some other things. But that is a big delicacy in Rhode Island. One of the things we promoted recently when I was Secretary of Commerce was our stuffies. And so that's a half a clam shell stuffed with breading with clams inside of it and some other great spices and very often some Portuguese chorizo sausage. And that's quite a dish as well.
Well, naturally, when something like the World Cup happens, you have the big guns, the New Yorks and the LAs that are going to capture the most attention. But what about the smaller places? What about the smallest place in America, the smallest state in America? That is Rhode Island, with a population of 1.1 million. But Rhode Island is actually really punching above its weight and really trying to make something of this opportunity with the World Cup coming to the US. It's less than 100 miles from Boston, and Boston is going to be hosting some of the biggest games. I mean, the biggest games of this tournament, including Norway, France, England, Ghana, Scotland, Morocco. And Rhode Island has clearly seen an opportunity. It's really well connected in the Northeast, not too far from New York and Philadelphia. And for a small place, it also has some of the biggest relevant diasporas. It has a really big Portuguese community and a big Cape Verdean community, which, of course, is a Portuguese colony, and Cape Verde have qualified for the very first time. So Rhode Island have created what they are calling Ocean State 2026, which is sort of a culmination of a regional fan zone, cultural events, business sponsorships, what they're calling essentially 39 days of soccer summer. And so far, they've notched up some big wins. They are hosting Ghana, their base camp, and they've also attracted a $250,000 investment from Airbnb. And Airbnb say that this is their biggest investment in Rhode Island in history. So they're doing something right. Assuming everything goes smoothly, America's smallest state could have a big summer. So I spoke to Liz Tanner, who's the executive director of Ocean State 2026, who was also the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Rhode Island for more than 7 years. So this was my chat with Liz. Well, naturally, when something like the World Cup happens, you have the big guns, the New Yorks and the LAs that are going to capture the most attention. But what about the smaller places? What about the smallest place in America, the smallest state in America? That is Rhode Island, with a population of 1.1 million. But Rhode Island is actually really punching above its weight and really trying to make something of this opportunity with the World Cup coming to the US. It's less than 100 miles from Boston, and Boston is going to be hosting some of the biggest games. I mean, the biggest games of this tournament, including Norway, France, England, Ghana, Scotland, Morocco. And Rhode Island has clearly seen an opportunity. It's really well connected in the Northeast, not too far from New York and Philadelphia. And for a small place, it also has some of the biggest relevant diasporas. It has a really big Portuguese community and a big Cape Verdean community, which, of course, is a Portuguese colony, and Cape Verde have qualified for the very first time. So Rhode Island have created what they are calling Ocean State 2026, which is sort of a culmination of a regional fan zone, cultural events, business sponsorships, what they're calling essentially 39 days of soccer summer. And so far, they've notched up some big wins. They are hosting Ghana, their base camp, and they've also attracted a $250,000 investment from Airbnb. And Airbnb say that this is their biggest investment in Rhode Island in history. So they're doing something right. Assuming everything goes smoothly, America's smallest state could have a big summer. So I spoke to Liz Tanner, who's the executive director of Ocean State 2026, who was also the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Rhode Island for more than 7 years. So this was my chat with Liz.
Liz, great to have you here. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your role?
So I am currently the executive director of Ocean State 2026. I'm the former Secretary of Commerce for the state, which oversaw all tourism. Before that, I was the director of the Department of Business Regulation, and I'm an attorney by trade. So it's been a really interesting progression through government to get me here.
That sounds like a long LinkedIn title.
Yes, it does.
And you just mentioned before we started recording that you had a few shots today. Not
I
alcohol, not alcohol, but
Not alcohol. I wish they were alcohol. Yeah, no, unfortunately, we're going to be going to Ghana. Very excited to go to meet the Black Stars and see what kind of fun events we can do for them. And so I had to get my yellow fever shot today. So they say I won't be feeling so well later, but I feel just fine so far. So that's pretty good.
great. Okay, fingers crossed. So I came across Ocean State 2026. I didn't really know anything about it. So let me just start with, the broad question. What is Ocean State 2026?
So when everybody started talking about World Cup and some of the numbers were coming out, the projections of the volume of people that were coming, we realized we needed to do something about that. So we created a separate nonprofit. I left my position as Secretary of Commerce and presented a plan to the governor and said, hey, we've got to work on this for the next year. Will you bless it? And he said, absolutely. So he blessed it. He worked with the state treasurer, James Diosa, who is our chairman of our board. He's a really good soccer player himself. And so we're very excited to be able to have this nonprofit that works on a wide variety of things. We work on logistics and some transportation. We do a lot of international relations, especially lately. And then the big thing we do is we raise dollars to be able to have a series of events across the state to capitalize on the economic development opportunities. The visitors are expected to spend $331 million while they're here in Rhode Island for a chunk of the summer. And we want to make sure that those dollars stay in Rhode Island. We want to have some events in particular to really entertain our guests. We want them to love Rhode Island, say a lot of good things about Rhode Island, and come back to Rhode Island.
I'm guessing that dollar figure is not per visitor.
No, $331 million over a 39-ish day period. So
Yeah.
that's a good number for a state with 1.1 million people.
Yeah, that's a good chunk. I'm curious because Rhode Island is obviously not hosting any matches. Is it quite unusual what your state is doing? I've not really heard of many states doing a similar thing.
Well, it's a geographical situation is really where we're at. So while the stadium is called Boston Stadium, we locally call it either Gillette Stadium with their sponsor for the Patriots or Foxborough Stadium because they're located in Foxborough. And so Foxborough itself is actually located closer to Rhode Island than it is to Boston. So, we know that about 40% of Patriots ticket holders stay in Rhode Island when they're coming to see a game at Gillette. And so we know that we're going to have a lot of people. It's estimated we have the potential to double our population for the next summer. And, we realized we needed to do something about it. It would be irresponsible for us not to do that because 40% of any of the folks who would be going to the World Cup matches, that's a big number for us. So we wanted to make sure to do something for them.
For people who maybe international travelers who don't know about Rhode Island, don't know really anything about Rhode Island, maybe you've heard of it. What are the highlights? Can you tell us a little bit about Rhode Island?
Rhode Island is a special place. It's the smallest state in the entire country. It is about 25 minutes away from Boston Stadium, as they're calling it. Providence is our capital city, and it's quite the artistic place. There's a lot of cultural events that happen in Rhode Island. We're also particularly known for, I would say, two things in particular. First, our beaches. We have some of the best beaches on the East Coast, particularly in New England, so we're really proud of those. But we also have incredible food. Johnson Wales University is our state's culinary school, one of the best in the world. And so by having that school here, we have some amazing chefs in our state. And so if you want to have good food experiences, Rhode Island is the place to come. So we're really proud of both our beaches and our food, but also our hospitality in general and our depth and breadth of cultural excitement and arts and energy. Rhode Island's a really special place.
What's the dish? Is there like a calamari dish or something that you guys are
Yes,
famous for?
yes. Calamari is, essentially a fried octopus rings. They're delicious. In Rhode Island, you have them with hot peppers, and sometimes you have them with vinegar and some other things. But that is a big delicacy in Rhode Island. One of the things we promoted recently when I was Secretary of Commerce was our stuffies. And so that's half a clam shell stuffed with breading with clams inside of it and some other great spices and very often some Portuguese chorizo sausage. And that's quite a dish as well.
In terms of your sponsorship model, what are you looking for? What kinds of businesses are you looking for, and what kind of partnerships are you seeking out?
So it is a little different, right? So we have a scenario where when you come in with any kind of a sponsorship, your brand, your logo, you get to be at all of the events. So what we did was we had we basically set it up like a grant funding situation, and we have about 20-ish events that want to take place around the state. Several of those are municipalities. So Pawtucket, Central Falls, East Providence, Warwick, those are big soccer loving communities. They want to have some special things themselves. The city of Providence has applied to FIFA for a FIFA fan zone license. And then there's also a variety of youth soccer tournaments and some cultural events. And so a sponsorship with us goes to all of them, right? And so rather than, whoever wanted to have an event reaching out to the same banks, to the same companies, trying to get sponsorships, dollars that come into us will then get pushed out to those events to happen across the state. So it's really, a unique scenario where we're really excited to be able to have as many as we can around the entire state for ideally as many of those 39 days as we possibly can.
I mean, do you have any examples you can share of partnerships?
So we haven't funded anybody yet because we're still waiting to see what our total amount is. But a great example are, again, Pawtucket and Central Falls. These are huge soccer-loving communities. The Pawtucket community in particular has a large Ghanaian population, so we're really excited to do some special things with the Ghanaians there. Central Falls has a large Cape Verdean and Colombian population, and so we're looking to do some special events there. I can tell you that we have been talking to the Tartan Army from Scotland. They want to do some special things in Providence. And then Rhode Island has always had a large Portuguese population. And so, matter of fact, one of the things that is set is that Puma is hosting what they're calling the House of Portugal in downtown Providence, not too far from where the fan zone would be. So there'll be some special things happening for the Portuguese as well. So it's been really fun to, incorporate all of those cultures and soccer into what we want to do across the state.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know, and probably a lot of people don't know the different diasporas, I suppose, that you have in your city and state. I mean, it's a big Portuguese stronghold. Like you said, Cape Verde, which is a Portuguese colony, I suppose, as well.
Yes. Again, a significantly large Portuguese population. I think it might actually be, the largest per capita in the entire country, something like that. And so soccer's always been a big deal in Rhode Island. Matter of fact, the first soccer league ever in America was founded in Rhode Island. And from the last World Cup in '94, Rhode Island had something like the second or third highest viewership per capita across the entire country. And so, you wouldn't think that in a small state like Rhode Island, but, we've always been a strong soccer state.
The Portuguese fans are fun. I used to live above a Portuguese restaurant in London when they won Euro 2016. It's fun until you're trying to get to sleep, and then it's kind of less fun.
And now that's some great food I bet you had there. And we've got that here in Rhode Island. Great Portuguese food.
Yeah, it's so good. What's kind of the nature of was there an Airbnb partnership that you have?
So we're really excited. Airbnb has come in as our platinum sponsor. They saw a real opportunity for what was happening in Rhode Island. And so, in addition to, all things World Cup, you've also got the 250th celebration and, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, obviously the center of it all. And so there's some exciting things happening there. June 13 is that big event happening down in Westerly. There's a big wedding, some really famous singer and a really famous football player. Rhode Island is hot right now, and Airbnb came in as a big sponsor for us. They're actually hosting an event on March 18th in order to really promote what it takes to become an Airbnb, because we know that all the hotels are going to be filled, right? Rhode Island's got some amazing hotels across the entire state. We expect them all to be filled with, this extra potential million people. And so Airbnb saw an opportunity to come in and say, all right, let's really try to grow our base across the state. Because, you don't have just Providence in the city, but, Newport, Rhode Island is a high-end luxury location very often. And so there's some opportunities even for, anyone to stay across the state with an Airbnb.
They decided to get married during the World Cup. That's bad planning.
The question is, which one will be better attended? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So do you get a sense that a lot of people who are going to matches in Boston or even, I don't know, New York or places like that, are they using Providence or Rhode Island as a base?
We have confidence that the international folks, they'll be coming in through Boston Airport. And so that's, on the other side of Foxborough. And we think that, they'll very often stay in Boston, use public transportation. It's just easier. That's what they know, right? But we know the Americans are really coming up 95 North, which is the main highway that takes you between Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, and then sort of Foxborough / Boston, which is where we're located. So you've pretty much got to go through Rhode Island to get to that location. Same thing with the Amtrak train, right? And so if you're going to be up in our sort of quadrant of, those, there's a lot of opportunity to see a lot of matches in a small geographical space. Rhode Island's perfectly situated right between all of them. Our Providence TF Green Airport is one of the best in the entire country, and it's a really convenient airport to get in and out of. And so between that and the train station, we think Rhode Island's sort of the ideal place if you want to be able to attend as many games as you can in that region.
What are these regional fan zones that I saw because, there's been a lot of the official fan fest that have actually been cancelled, or, I think in New Jersey, for example, they've cancelled their fan fest. What are these fan zones that you're setting up?
So there's interesting language to sort through. So a host city can have a fan festival. And so Boston has made it very clear they're having a fan festival, and so many of the other locations are as well. Capital cities of other states that are not host cities are entitled to get a FIFA fan zone license. And so the city of Providence has applied to get that FIFA fan zone. And so they're entitled to be able to have a FIFA sponsored event in the city of Providence.
So it has to be capital cities.
That's my understanding, is it has to be capital cities.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. No, there's a lot of terminology, so that's helpful. And then cultural events. I mean, your website is full of really interesting arts and culture events that might be going on at the same time. Everything from like boat tours to goat hikes. What's
Welcome to
sounds
Rhode
fun.
Island. That's the beauty of us, right? And so, in a very small state, we have 6 or 7 tourism councils, and they all really work hard to have unique and special events in their regions. And so that website is showing all of that information. And so those are the things that happen in Rhode Island all the time. They're not just happening for World Cup. The events that we want to have for the big international tournament, as we often call it, are special ones. And so they're in addition to the regular things that happen in Rhode Island. And again, we're not just focusing just on soccer, but also on the cultures of the countries that are here. We're very blessed. We're going to have England, France, Morocco, Haiti, Ghana, Norway. I mean, these are great countries that really are exciting and fun. The Scots are working with us. We're talking to the Tartan Army about some really fun things to do with them. And so there's so many really great things to do in Rhode Island, especially this summer. And then adding in the 250th, I mean, it's just a really special place. You're going to be able to enjoy a wide variety of things just in one place.
I'm from England originally. I'm an England fan, and so as much as it pains me to talk about Ghana because they've been drawn in our group, they're going to be tough opponents. You're going to be hosting Ghana, is that right?
Yes, and that England-Ghana game is a big one. We're actually working with both countries right now to see what fun events we can do. Nothing for public consumption yet, but we're trying to do something special there. So yes, that wide variety of countries, and especially the ranking of England and France being number 3 and 4 respectively, we know that they're going to be around a long time. Bryant University, located in Smithfield, Rhode Island, just a little bit out of Providence, Rhode Island, is the only FIFA-blessed base camp in all of New England. And so that's a really big deal for us to be able to show that and to showcase that. Bryant was actually the place where Rhode Island Football Club, we have a new football club in Rhode Island, and they used Bryant for their first season while they were still finishing a brand new soccer stadium that we have in Rhode Island. And so with Ghana being able to be that location for the base camp, and then Providence is where the team is staying, that's a huge honor for us. We're so proud, and we're so excited to welcome the Black Stars to come to Rhode Island and do so many fun things that they want to do.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do an episode actually all about base camps and how that all happened. But from your perspective, I mean, how did it come about? Did Ghana say we want to be here, or did you reach out to them and kind of try and attract them? How does that kind of work?
Great question. So Bryant had to go through a very stringent process to be able to show that their fields and their field house were up to par for a famous soccer team and could handle that. So because they had just had the Rhode Island Football Club, they were prepared for it, right? And so they knew what to expect. They had had to meet the rules for the MLS League, and so we knew that they wanted to do that. The president of Bryant University, Ross Cattell, he's a really forward-looking guy, and they're also a big international business school. And so it made sense for them to really try to get their name out to the international world. So when they became an official FIFA licensed base camp, then the teams that I mentioned earlier, those countries that we know are spending a lot of time in our region, most of them came to visit Bryant to then say, oh, do we want to pick Bryant or do we want to pick another location, right? So if you're playing down in Philadelphia or New York, you might want to pick a place down there. And so ultimately it came down to Ghana chose us. So we were very proud to be able to say, oh, we wanted to welcome them. But it was a selection process that FIFA had to sort through.
You said that you're going to Ghana soon.
Yes. So end of April, we're going to Ghana. We're going to go with some folks from Bryant University, hoping to, be able to talk about some of these events that we want to have, in particular with some of the leadership of Ghana. Ideally, we know the president wants to come over, and so we hope to talk to his office. But we also want to work on some cross tourism for both countries, but also to talk for Bryant University for students. So Ghana is already a place where a lot of people from Ghana go to Bryant. So we want to try to increase that and try to work together more closely.
cool. In terms of we talked about the training ground, but the hotel as well. Do they go through the same kind of process of choosing the right fit?
They do. They do. They go through a stringent process. Security, as you can imagine, is a main factor for that as well. But also food. So these teams, they have very strict food requirements, and so I'm not at liberty to share anymore for security reasons for the team. But the team is staying in Rhode Island, and they're staying at a great hotel who's going to take very good care of them.
Yeah, just lots of carbs on hand, right, for the carb loading. Yeah. I suppose just in closing, I mean, what does this really mean in terms of the significance of opportunity for America's smallest state? And I say that with affection.
We're the smallest, but we are mighty, right? Rhode Island is a mighty, mighty state. And I think I'll close with how I started by saying we want to make sure that people feel welcomed in Rhode Island. We've actually launched a cultural awareness campaign. We actually had an event just this morning to talk about, what does it mean for your business? What does it mean for you to have so many different cultures in our community? One of the things we're looking at is, changing the ATMs to include French, because so many of our guests are going to be speaking French. We're doing hospitality training across the state to really make sure that everybody understands the differences in tipping cultures and languages and, money and, things like that. But what we really want is for people to talk about how great Rhode Island is, to come back and visit us someday and, really excel and show what the beauty of Rhode Island is.
Is there also an education process for residents of the state, of the people we're going to be welcoming and about their culture and their community?
And that's exactly what we've been working on, right? So I've made my way around to so many of the trade associations across the state to talk to them. What I say to them is, what does this mean for you personally and professionally, right? And so personally, there's going to be a lot of traffic. There's going to be a lot of different people. You're not going to be able to get the reservations you get at the restaurants that you normally get. So just think about what that means. Also, do you want to stay here? Do you want to Airbnb out your house? Do you want to, what do you want to try to do? But professionally, it's, what does it mean for your employees as far as commuting on the days that there are games? How can you make your employees really understand, again, the fact that there's just going to be a lot of different people who might not just do things the way we normally do them, right? And so, having a leniency and understanding and a cultural awareness to say, oh, okay, let me talk to you about how we do this in Rhode Island, or let me learn more about you and who your culture is. And so that's worked out really well for Rhode Islanders. They're really excited about this opportunity, and they can't wait to see who comes.
And no fainting from yellow fever yet. So.
I'm very proud of that. Yes, we'll see how I feel in a couple hours. But right now, I feel great.
Well, Liz, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.